on me while I'm waiting for other people to join here.
All right, go for it.
I know there are
Take a
people
wait.
waiting because I've been getting Facebook messages from people who are waiting, which is great.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
You can hear me fine?
I can hear you great.
Okay, I'm not the least bit nervous, okay? Just telling you. You know exactly what that means.
Yes, I do.
Good.
Yes, I do. All right. Well, here we go. All right, everyone. I just want to go ahead and get us started. I'm Bradley, and thank you very much for joining the Hangout, Google Hangout here. What we're trying to do is just have real conversations with real people who are in the internet marketing world and trying to do what they can to help others, right? And so my focus here is really to be able to just have a candid conversation. There are no canned questions. We just kind of have a conversation off the cuff and do what we can to cover the important topics in conversational English, so that you can all follow along. And with that, what I thought we would do is kind of take off or bite off these bigger topics. And one of the topics seems to be a challenge for people out there, and that is branding, right? And I think part of the difficulty in all of that is that we have a society who has essentially said your brand has to be absolutely perfect with all the right colors, with all the right graphics, and your outward image has to be absolutely pristine before you can get started. And the unfortunate truth behind that is there are a lot of different business owners who are absolutely crippled by the fact that it's not perfect. And so what I thought we would do is just talk about real life, real branding, brand management, the easy way, and do what we can to both educate and encourage. And to do that, I have my friend on, Nadeem, and I want for Nadeem to be able to just sort of introduce himself. And if you could, Nadeem, tell us a little bit about your background and why branding for you is, one, a passion, and two, an experience that you want to be able to share.
Absolutely. Bradley, thanks so much first off for having me take part in this hangout. At the end of the day, it's all about delivering value and being able to help business owners to kind of see the light through the tunnel. And you're right, a lot of people are crippled because of the whole perception of branding, and just running a business in general is not easy. A lot of people are driven by passion, and moves on to other things like process. But we'll get into that in a bit. A bit about myself. I've been in the design and marketing arena for about 15 years. I started learning everything on my own. Uh, Self-taught graphic designer kind of style is how I really got into everything. Um, I did several years working in the sign business, got into the printing business, got into web design, and now I'm more into strategic marketing, where I can take all those years of experience in the different arenas and different industries that I've worked in and help business owners position themselves as a strong brand, um, and ultimately be successful and not have to worry about a lot of things that really kind of keep them up at night. And building consistency with their income, building their brand, building their perception, and all that kind of stuff. Um, I'm fortunate to work with a lot of companies in the U.S., even though I live in Canada, and a lot of that's really, we're all thankful to the internet for allowing that to happen. And this Hangout is a perfect example of that as well. Um, yeah, no, and just branding in general, maybe it's just me, but I find it really simple. And I want to be able to kind of reiterate that with your listeners and share some advice on how to keep things simple and effective at the same time.
Cool. You talked about being able to establish a brand, and I think that, well, I can tell you in the organizations that I work with, and for instance, I facilitate what is called a lean startup circle here in the eastern United States. And what it is, a bunch of entrepreneurs who come around the table and they bring their business idea, whether it's a product or a service, to this group, and we help them understand how to get it to market faster, cheaper, and more appropriately to their customer. It's sort of like the Shark Tank without the money, so to speak. And
Right.
in that process, what I find is that a lot of entrepreneurs don't spend enough time thinking about the impression they're trying to make on people. And they're only really trying to figure out how to, I don't know, almost extract money from somebody's pocket. And what we're really talking about is, it's not just branding, it's reputation management, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I've had that exact same discussion with a lot of my retail clients and smaller business owners up until you actually start thinking like a brand. Thinking about the culture that your company creates. Up until that point, you'll be chasing people. You'll be chasing clients. The whole ideology behind building a brand is you're attracting people. You're attracting people to your way of doing business. You're attracting people to your business culture. So I think that's right off the bat, that's a huge differentiating factor in the way business owners should think. People think spending money on a logo or spending money on color and design is often a waste of money. But if you invest that money in the right places and put the right amount of thought into this stuff, it definitely pays back in the long run.
So as we're talking about brand development, brand management, and this reputation idea, if someone has a new idea, and we have an audience that has a varied background. They have brick and mortar businesses, real estate brokers, all the way to people who are selling information products online. Where does someone start, and what kinds of exercises can they participate in, or how do they get from concept to real reputation or real brand management?
It depends. If you have a product, your thought process is going to be different. If you have a service, your thought process is going to be different. But both of them start with the same foundation, which is research. You really need to be able to know what arena you're going to be in, see what the waters are like before you jump in and dump in a lot of money just to survive. And again, just to kind of like keep your head above water. Because as entrepreneurs or as business owners, right from the beginning, we're very passionate. And no doubt, passion is what gets us started. Passion is what keeps us going. But it's the process of your business that's actually going to make you profits. There's a lot of elements in your business on the back end, given the technologies that we have available to us today, that we can automate. And in all seriousness, these are the same types of technologies that the big brands use. You go to Walmart, they have a newsletter. Why doesn't your business have a newsletter? It's the same technology, and that's ultimately what the internet has given all of us, is an opportunity to level the playing field. But before all that, it's just about educating yourself, what tools you have availability, what kind of talent you have access to. And then when it comes to your product or your service, when you look at your competition, see what they're doing. Don't ignore that. See what they're doing, and then kind of figure out what they're not doing, and then fill in those gaps.
So, when you talk about passion and you talk about process, passion is hard to figure out how to bottle up. You almost either have it or you don't have it. and it's really hard, even as a business coach, you know this as well, it's really hard to spur on passion into somebody if they just don't have it already. But there can be a series of processes that you can go through that that can get the job done. Maybe not with as much flair, but it might be a place to start for some who are somewhat overwhelmed by passion and idea and hopes and dreams. What does that process look like? What are the things that someone can do to make this brand management easy on a day-to-day basis?
The number one thing that really comes to my mind is consistency. What ends up happening is, see, when you build a brand versus building a business, building a brand takes a bit longer. You know, you have to kind of create that culture within your business. You have to be known for something, and that's what people are going to be drawn to. You know, when you're running a business, it's all about counting dollars. You know, how much money did I make at the end of the day? Am I paying all my bills, or am I, you know, still head above water type of thing? When you're talking about building a brand, you're talking about the experience. You know, for example, if you own a coffee shop, instead of just giving your customers a cup of coffee with their change, you know, try to sell them some food, you know, or it's part of the experience. You give them a napkin with their coffee or a sleeve with their coffee, you know, direct them to where the cream and the milk is and the, you know, the rest of the stuff that they need, versus somebody coming into your coffee shop and trying to figure it out, right? So it's the small, subtle things like that in your business, and the way how you conduct yourself in your business is what's going to really set you apart. And again, from your business point of view, it doesn't seem like it's such a huge thing, but from an experience point of view, and here's a quick thing. Try this. Try to walk into your own business as a customer and see how that feels. And if there's something amiss, you know, that's something that you want to address.
So I think that what I'm hearing you say, and I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth, but one, it takes a certain amount of empathy, a certain amount of ability for us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and with a sort of a bigger vision to say, if it were me experiencing this, is this how I want to be treated? Is this how I want the problem to be solved? Is this how I want to be dealt with, right? Sort of almost the golden rule, do unto others as you wish to be done unto you, right? I think that that's one of the things that I'm hearing you say, and I think I'm also hearing you say that it's important for us to focus on being able to earn our keep, in that we provide value for what it is that we're asking someone to pay for, and that value and the experience go together, and that sort of creates part of the foundation of brand management.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I'll give you an example, and you know, down the road, when you look at it, is the big brands that we all know about, you know, the Walmarts, the Starbucks, and the Nikes, and all that. They are very receptive to exactly that, the customer experience. What is it that the customers are asking for? What are they talking about? And they actually basically navigate all their marketing just through that information. And again, when you establish your brand, you do your best job to control the perception of that brand. I'll give you a quick example. When I say Dunkin' Donuts, what comes to mind?
For me, what comes to mind is coffee.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, the color orange for some reason.
Okay, and then when I say Starbucks, what comes to mind?
Green. In lots of different
Right.
ways, right?
But,
I mean, not just green, but they're bent toward the environment. Their sense in recycling and fair trade, and they provide an interesting experience that people have when they come. They don't come to just get a cup of coffee. They come to
correct.
provide money to a business that has a set of core values that they appreciate.
Hmm. And the other thing is, again, what comes to my mind is the $1 coffee versus the $5 drink. Um, and the difference between those two brands is kind of like what you mentioned, right? The colors, the experience, the involvement with the community, and all those aspects are offshoots of perception. How does your customer perceive your brand? If they say, hey, you know what, I want some really good advice on my business, I'm going to go to Bradley. That's because you've set that perception of your brand to be out there like that. Um, and when you focus on those small things, you learn on the way, because a brand is not always consistent. It evolves just like a personality.
Let me ask. It's really easy, I think, to sort of get drawn into this concept of internet marketing, or a segment of internet marketing that is sort of the get-rich-quick kind of concept, right? Buy an email list, not have a relationship with them, just start spamming them, go to discussion groups and all this other stuff. One thing that I don't know whether people pay attention to, and that's one of the reasons I was sort of bringing this up, is every one of our behaviors, whether it's in a discussion group or through an email or something that we write, a handshake, a real conversation that we have with people, establishes a brand. It establishes a reputation with the other person that is lifelong lasting. Is there a way for us, in your experience, to sort of keep all of that in check, to make sure that we slow down a little bit and really try to understand what the lasting impact of our own actions and our own words are?
You kind of broke up there a little bit, but from the gist of what you said, the one word that comes to mind is being genuine.
So being genuine, is that what you just said?
Yes. So,
yeah.
Because you as an individual are an extension of your business, an extension of your brand.
That's right.
Another way of looking at it is like a personality of your brand. And one of the challenges that I see, and kind of like going off what you said earlier about the get-rich-quick scheme type of thing, first off, I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but there's no such thing.
Yeah, let's talk real, right?
Because all the big guys that you talk about and you hear about, oh, I made 100 grand this month, I made 80 grand this week. No doubt, that's very, very true. It's possible. But you know what? They've put 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears into building those hundreds of thousands of relationships that they have with their audience. The days of buying an email list are long gone. The laws and the rules at government level have changed in such a way that they're a lot more strict. And you know what? You don't have to fool yourself. You don't have to kid yourself. At the end of the day, it's building a relationship one person at a time. Whether you do that in a group like this, whether you do that kind of like through your no money down Shark Tank, or you do it through a Facebook group, or or a volunteer at a local community center, you're impacting people's lives one at a time.
Because we're really impacting people's lives, for some reason that seems to really underscore the importance of branding, right? If we have a reputation in our community, and we have a reputation in the friendships and relationships that says that we're helpful, that we're honest, that we are here to make someone else's life better through the products or services that we sell, that becomes folded into the brand experience. That becomes folded into the culture of the organization, and then we start to see, I think, the symbols of logos and colors and interior design of brick and mortar facilities, brick and mortar businesses, that now conjure up these ideas, but it's the idea and the experience that started first, isn't it?
Hmm. Absolutely. And kind of like you touched on a really bunch of really cool points there. And one is kind of like the touch and feel of a bricks and mortar business, right? I'll give you an example. McDonald's. You go to any McDonald's restaurant anywhere around the world, you're going to see Ronald McDonald sitting there. You're going to see the same color of seat of chairs. You're going to see the same, uniforms and all that kind of stuff. That consistency is there because humans, our nature is to not welcome change too easily. We're creatures of habit. We like seeing the same things over and over. And, the dude with the red hair figured it out at the end of the day. And, and over time that grows on you. You know what I mean? And then the other thing is what you mentioned about, being that person, establishing those relationships and impacting lives. At the end of the day, as long as you realize that you're human, you're going to eventually make mistakes. It's okay. Because a lot of people, and they get mentally frozen in this place where, what if I screw up? Or what if something goes wrong? Or what if I make a mistake? And the honest truth is, you just embrace it. If you made a mistake, talk about it.
Yeah.
The more vulnerable you become, the more human that you become in your business, the more people you'll be able to attract. If you've had a bad day, talk about it. That's what social media is for. But, if you talk about every bad moment of your life, that's not really a good thing either. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it all kind of balances out. And given the age that we live in, I think what you have set up with your startups, with your lean startups, is a phenomenal way to give back to the community, because we're in an age and an era of collaboration. The more like minds meet, the more you talk, and the more you share your ideas, the faster you'll grow. And if you don't grow mentally, and your mindset is not in a place of being positive and being able to build that brand, build that business, build that personality and that character to attract people, you're going to be missing out on a lot. And unfortunately, the only person you can blame is yourself. Again, surround yourself with those kind of people that'll help you elevate your brand, help you build your business, and then and it all goes back and forth. You create this big cycle of good karma. You get in touch with people that are really phenomenal, that are willing to help.
So, it's interesting. Before you were talking about process and predictability, which for me is fascinating, because when I get a chance to work with businesses, I work with them on a level of establishing trust, because we do business with people that we trust. And trust is sort of a three-part equation, and if you don't have all three, you're in trouble. The first one is a set of skills necessary to deliver the value. The second is solid character, and the third is predictable behavior. Let's imagine that, just for a minute, indulge me, if you didn't have the skill set, but you had really great character and a set of processes that worked out really well, you may be a real nice guy, but nobody wants to give you delegate work to you or give you a job, because they can't be convinced that you'll actually get it done right. If you had, let's say, skill and really great processes but no character, then what happens is you have a wake of destruction behind you, but boy, you were able to get all of the things off of the to-do list pretty doggone fast. And it was predictable, but it may not have gone the way it should have gone. You didn't treat people the right way. And then the last bit, if you have really great skills, and really great character, but you don't have the set of processes put in place that people can predict your behavior, then all of a sudden people are somewhat schizophrenic around you, because they don't know what to expect. and they don't want to participate. And one of the things that I find is real interesting is that branding is really integrated in all of that, right? You talked about an experience, that is sort of the character trait and the skill set. You talked about bringing value, it's also skills, and you also talked about this predictability, and that has everything to do with us not being schizophrenic around one another and feeling like, you know what, I'm going to give them my money. I know they're going to give me a service or a product, and now I know what to expect in that. So all that to say, it doesn't have to be complicated. If we focus on skills, we focus on character and predictable behavior or processes. What I heard you say was processes. Now all of a sudden we have a brand, an experience that people can trust, and that trust equation bridges the gap and gets us to a point where people are willing to pay us for the services or the products that we have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to kind of touch point on a couple of things that you said there is your personality and your skill set often go together because you're driven by passion. A lot of people that run their business are very, very excited when a customer walks in the door. They're happy, you know, how can I help you? And they kind of deliver on their services. But then they get caught up trying to finish or execute and deliver on what they promised, right? I know there's a lot of business owners that would much rather just focus on meeting and greeting their customers and let the business take care of itself. And that is where process comes into play, is if you logically think, okay, my customer is going to walk in the door, they're going to probably ask this of me and that. So package A, package B, whatever the service is, whatever the product is, if you have a system in place that says, okay, customer comes in, they asked it, this is the questions that need to be asked, this is how you're going to organize it, this is how you're going to deliver it, and this is how you're going to delegate it if it's appropriate. So that way, once that system is in place, all you essentially have to really worry about is meeting and greeting, being the personality of your business, being the face of your brand, versus, like, for example, when I started graphic design back in the day, I would be so delighted to have a customer come in, I need a logo or a design made or whatever, and then I'd be up till 3 in the morning working on it because I had no process in place. I had no gears working in the background that kept on moving my business forward. And everybody knows their business the best. Like, as a consultant, I never tell somebody what to do because it's their baby, it's their passion, it's their business. But what I do advise them on is, hey, you know what, to do it better, I would do this. And they kind of think about it for a few minutes. First they're like, no, I don't want to change anything. But then they think about it like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just pause real quick. There's a chat box at the bottom right-hand corner of this Google Hangout. I know I've seen some things coming in on the chat already from Germany. Appreciate that. And if you have some questions, let us know, and we'll do everything we can to answer them while we're here. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this passion and process idea. And the reason I say that is when I started working in organizational leadership and working in professional services to help boost brands and get beyond the technical expertise into the customer experience, we were talking internally about some of the challenges and overcoming some of those challenges. And one of the ways we were able to almost boil it down was we started to ask one another and ask our clients 2 simple questions. The first simple question was, did we earn our keep? Did we actually give you the value that you expected? The second one is, did we keep our word? And the reason those 2 were so powerful is that it encapsulates some of what you're talking about on the passion and the process, in that sometimes we can be so overwhelmed by passion that we don't keep our word because we forget about what we said. We overpromise and underdeliver. We don't really kind of keep it all into context. But if we have process in place, that keeps bounds on it. And I think that that's really, really important for us to think about. If someone is just now starting their business, they have this great idea in their mind. How do you help them work through process? What do they have? What should they be writing down? What questions should they be asking themselves so they can get it right?
I was just thinking about that while you were talking. Um, you got to know what you're good at and what you're not. Okay? You may
That's
be a really good
profound, by the
artist.
way.
Okay? Yeah, thank you. But the thing is, you may be a great artist,
Hmm?
you may be a great painter, but that doesn't make you a good business person. Okay? If you don't have the skills or the know-how of just basic business standards, and you don't have the budget for it, then you have to cut out the time to learn. And kind of like just a couple of tips of advice that I can give you right off the top of my head is, one is document everything. Whether it's through an email, whether it's through a journal, whether it's through, even a private Facebook group that you're the only member there, doesn't matter. Okay? Document everything, and what that'll allow you to do is it keeps you accountable to yourself. And if you look over your shoulders, it'll see how you've grown or changed. And also, if there's any discrepancy in the near future with a client or customer or whatever, you just go back to the paperwork and say, hey, look, this is what we agreed on. This is what we're going to do. And then everything above and beyond that, just stand firm, right? Because as you know, in the business world, not everybody runs an ethical business. Not everybody is empathetic towards the audience or very caring. If they get a vibe that they can step on you, they'll walk all over you. And that's one of the things a lot of my customers and a lot of my clients struggle with. And it's like, I gave him a deal last time, and he wants another deal this time. And it's like, you shouldn't have started in the first place.
Yeah, you conditioned your customer to expect a deal.
Yeah. And you stand your ground. You stand your ground. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with giving deals. But
No.
is that an accurate business decision? Are you sticking your head underwater just to do that? Or what are you leveraging? What are you gaining out of giving that person a discount? And it's not always about money. If you bring somebody on board with your team that brings a lot of experience, a lot of influence in the community, that person, sure, give them a leeway with some of the work that you do or whatever. But if you're just, playing with sticks and stones, then you got to make sure that your business person inside you is disciplined. And that's what it leads down to. Once you have that and you do it enough to make sure that it becomes a part of your personality, part of your trait, because a lot of, going back to the whole thing about passion that you mentioned, we get so excited about certain things and we just shoot off numbers. Oh yeah, I can do it for this much, I can do it for that. Yeah. And then you go home and you think about it when the adrenaline rush is over, and you're like, you just shot yourself in the foot. So know your numbers, cut them out, and make sure that you're disciplined when it comes to that kind of stuff. Another thing, if somebody pitches you an opportunity, don't ever say yes right off the bat. Yeah. Always say, you know what, let me look at it, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And that all of a sudden just, in a certain way, it puts a little element of fear in the other person's heart. If that person's trying to screw you over or take advantage of you, it'd be like, oh, this person is going to review everything I just talked about. Let's see what comes back. It adds a little bit of suspense. But above all, it gives you control. So don't ever underestimate about walking away from something to think about it and then coming back with a sound decision.
Yeah, and if it was a really good deal, it'll still be there, right? I mean, for the most part, deals don't just vanish, vaporize overnight. I mean, sometimes they do, but not very often. I wanted to do sort of a quick shout out. I just want to say, Crazy Jay, appreciate that you sort of summarized it. That said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I mean, yeah, it's
True.
cliche, but it's right on the money. For us as business owners, we really do want to make people's lives better. That's one of the reasons why we have this passion, why we got into business to begin with. It's not about trying to figure out how to extract as much money from somebody else's wallet, no matter the pain or agony in the process. It literally is bringing value every single day. So appreciate that. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We're going to be wrapping up here real soon. Nadeem, I wanted to just simply ask you if if you're looking back on your experience, is there a mistake that you've either made or seen someone else make regarding their branding that is sort of just a cautionary tale, a lesson learned along the way that someone who might watch this in the future or watching right now can look at it and go, wow, I'm walking right into that right now, and I'd rather not go through that sort of pain and agony if somebody has already been there.
The example I can really give you is I see a lot of business people jump ship really fast. I have this thing where I always talk to my clients is about the 1% rule. Is out of 10 people that'll love your product, one person's always going to stand up and say, "Yeah, this sucks." That one person is not going to determine the fate of your business or your brand. So get over it. Right? There's always going to be downpours of people that are going to be like, and those people that are strongly opinionated, and to a certain degree, they're not well-mannered enough to say, hey, you know what, I don't agree with you, or here's some suggestions that you can add to, versus just saying, you know what, you suck. And then from a business point of view, for all the business owners that are out there, we all have heart. Like, we put a lot of work into our businesses to build them. And if some guy just randomly comes along, and that can turn into, not only is it like an emotional trigger, but that can definitely turn into like a spiral of downwards. And I've been there, and I'm speaking from personal experience where, I've created brands, and people will say, oh, you know what, I don't like this, I don't like that, and people will always comment negative. And it's very few people that'll say, hey, you know what, you did a good job on this, let's rock it. And the only advice I can give you for those people that are out there is surround yourself around people that care, that think the same way you think. If they have a business, you have a business, talk business, promote each other, talk about each other's successes and how you've come over certain challenges, because there's always going to be people out there to put you down, and you do not want to get stuck in that trap. And then stand your ground. One of the things that somebody once told me is, a bamboo tree, from the starting point when you plant it in the seed, it takes 7 years for that bamboo tree to sprout. And then within the first year that it sprouts, it actually grows about 18 inches or 22 inches a year. And that's because it spent the first 7 years growing its roots. Okay, these are roots that grow that nobody sees. And if I apply the same analogy to all of our businesses, that's all the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into our businesses. And then you get to a point where you actually see some reward, you see some greenery, you see some leaves come out, and say, hey, you know what, I've done it. And then you create a brand that people are being attracted to. You create a culture that people can relate to. You create a business that, you get to a point where you can walk around town and you really don't need an introduction. Because people say, hey, that Bradley guy, he's got a really cool gig. He helps a lot of businesses grow and succeed. I want to be like that person. I want to be around that person. And it all comes around. It on a global scale or even a larger scale than yourself. people are watching and listening and they care.
Yeah, you were talking about in the very beginning. You started out in the sort of cautionary tale of being real concerned with opposition to your brand, your product, your process, and as long as there's good moral fiber in what you're doing, if you are really honestly bringing value and taking the high road in the type of business that you do. You're going to end up carving out a niche and a set of core values that are strong enough that you'd need to expect opposition. If you don't have opposition, oftentimes you're not convicted enough yourself about how things should be done and how you can enrich somebody else's life through your product or service. Others may not agree with you, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons why we spend so much time up front trying to figure out who your target market is, what problem you're trying to solve, what set of core values you're going to operate from, because that's the foundation, that's the ground you're going to stand on when you have to have resolve in the middle of war, and someone simply says, I don't like you, and I don't like your product or your service. You can simply back up and say, you know what? I'm glad that you don't like me. You must not be one of my customers. It's time to liberate you from my list and go on somewhere else and help people who resonate with how I operate.
You know, that actually brings a really, really powerful thought to mind. And this is something I learned from Frank Kern. Branding is about attracting people, attracting a certain kind of individual, a certain kind of consumer. But business, so you make enough noise to attract people that you want, but you got to make twice as much noise to deter the people that you don't want.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you write, I'll give you a simple example. If you start writing your blog, okay, and you have a certain style of writing, your grammar's a little bit off, you've got a little bit of slang in there and stuff like that, you're automatically telling the lawyer and the doctor that you don't really want to talk to them. Okay? You're telling the English professor, you know what, go to a different blog. And that's the power of your personality. You don't have to bend over for everyone, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose out. So it's very important to make sure that you have a balance of the amount of noise that you're making to when you're attracting people, and literally double it when you're trying to turn people away.
Well, that really goes into this branding idea. We are establishing a set of expectations with our customers, and that set of expectations better stand for something, or else we're going to get so confused along the way that we're going to be willing to make all kinds of strange decisions, and we're going to scare off the people who really resonate with how we deliver things. They're going to run for the hills because they're going to say, for instance, Bradley is crazy. He's been doing it the certain way for 3 or 4 years. Now all of a sudden he's gone a completely different direction. I can't trust this guy anymore. I'm out of here. And that shouldn't be the brand experience. It should be consistency. It should be standing for a set of values and being very clear about what those are. And the beauty of that is that's not hard work. That is the easy way of doing it. That's the hey, this is who I am. This is the best I've got. You either like it or you don't, and I'm going to do what I can to make myself better toward a same set of values and goals that I have. If you're on board, great. If you're not, man, let me help you find somebody who fits better, or may the Lord bless you. Have a good rest of the day. I don't know what else to tell you.
Absolutely. And the other thing, one of the things that may differentiate you as a business owner is, like, for example, we're consultants, right? Anybody that's knocking on our door, we know that they're in a tough spot before they even open their mouth, because otherwise they wouldn't be knocking on our door. So what ends up happening in a typical scenario is the consultant on the other end will try to take them run for the money. Oh, I got this, I got that, it's going to cost you 15 grand. Well, you know what, you come into my office, we'll sit down, we'll have a conversation, have a coffee, and I want to see if there's a good fit. And I won't charge you a penny.
Yeah.
Right? That's a differentiating factor between yourself and the next businessman or woman. Now, the thing is, you know, especially in the service industry, you know, if you're a plumber, you're going around houses fixing broken leakage, you know, whatever, you know, what is your level of standards when you get to the house? You know, are you taking your shoes off at the front door? Are you properly dressed? Just the simple things that really edify your brand overall. You know, you're here in any business that's there. You're there to solve a problem. You're there to provide a service, and just like you said, just do the best you can.
So I want to deviate just slightly. First, I want to say, dude, love the word edify. Way to go for the vocabulary word of the day. For those who don't know what edify means, it means to build up or strengthen. So I love that. A great word. And then, just slightly off topic, Simon Newcomb, appreciate you throwing in here. And he's simply asking you and me, just as business guys, how is it that we might guide him in a direction to do a little bit of research, market research, finding demographics for a specific niche or a specific product? And I know this is not on the branding issue, but it does sort of get back to the basics, or where we were talking about we need to know who we are, we need to know who our customer is. Do you have some specific tips or tricks you might throw Simon's way? And I know I have a couple, but I want to give you a chance to sort of chime in first.
Depending on the niche or the market that he's in, don't be a moth and go right for the fire. Okay? What you want to do is kind of figure out whatever your niche is and dance around that topic. Right? If you have a certain product, for example, you want to get yourself in the mind of those customers. You know, what kind of people will buy this product? You know, for example, if you have like a really luxurious tie that you're selling, you know that high-paid executives and CEOs and corporate people will be wearing these kind of ties. So what kind of people do you want to hang around with? Do you want to hang around with people that that have like American Express for Black cards, for example, people of that caliber, people around that topic, that associate, that consume other comparable products and brands like yours, and then just offer it to them. When you're looking at it from a research point of view, Google is your best friend, Facebook is your other best friend, and YouTube. Okay, YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google. So, and just kind of look at the keywords, look at the comments, look at the people, what are they asking, and how does your product fit into those? Like if you're reading a conversation on a forum, for example, can you repeat that conversation in your head with your brand all over it, or with your product all over it? And if you can, that's a good scenario to be in.
So that for me is great advice, right? Hang out or figure out where your target market hangs out. Where's the gossip center, so to speak, and then just sit and listen, pay attention to what they have to say. And when it comes to specific demographic information, one of the easiest ways to get demographic information that most people overlook is that if you understand your market enough to know what they're interested in, and you can whittle it down to what they like to read or what they like to consume as far as media is concerned. What's so interesting about the resources available now are that you could literally go to those publications, let's say Forbes, for instance, and go to their advertising section and click on the button that says Media Kit. The Media Kit for each one of these publications actually tells you exactly what the demographic is. It tells you how old they are, what their income is, how big their house is, what their spending habits are. They do it because they want to attract the right kind of advertisers, those advertisers that are going to be successful with their publication. So that is fundamentally a great place to start, is to understand who they are, what they consume as far as media, and then go get those media kits to get the exact demographic of who they are, and leverage that with exactly what you were talking about, Nadeem, is hanging out with them in their social circles so that you can not just understand who they are on paper, but get into their heads and understand their concerns, their worries, their hopes, their dreams, the things that keep them awake at night.
Mm-hmm. And the last comment I could probably make to that is successful marketing is segmented marketing.
Yes.
You know, what do you do once you have all that information? One of the things that I love doing with my clients is create your perfect customer on paper. Write it out. What are they wearing? What are they talking about? What's their education? What's their income? All the aspects of a person that you could create on paper, and then create the complete opposite. You know, here's the person that you want, here's the person that you don't want, and then talk about those people, and then, you know, make up scenarios in which you can sell to that person, and then kind of build your whole marketing funnel and sales funnel around that, and obviously, you know, keep your branding consistent with it as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't tie that back into branding, we're in trouble, because that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Is how do you manage the experience that your audience really wants to have from you, and that's about branding, right? So we're gonna wrap this crazy thing up, Nadeem. Do you have any parting comments that you would like to share with anyone? If there was one last thing on your heart to say to the audience about where we are, what we're doing, managing your own brand, what would it be?
It takes time. If you start something, don't jump ship too fast. That's one of the biggest things I've seen. You know, and 5 years in business is nothing. Okay. Oh, 3 years ago I did this. Oh, but I didn't like it, so I switched. I'll give you a very simple example. Is like social media. The example that you used is when people go around spamming things all over the place. Well, social media has its own pace. It has a certain frequency. It has its own heartbeat. Your job is to take your brand and your business and align it with that heartbeat. Align it with that frequency. Be involved with the conversations that you know that you can bring value to. And in the same sense, in the real business world, it has its own pace. You know, sure, in Wall Street, like everything's like sky high, fly high type of thing. But when it comes to consultants like us and you know, other smaller business owners, it's all about building relationship and building trust.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you very much, Nadeem, for joining me on this Google Hangout. Again, I'm Bradley, and I love being able to sit in this kind of forum and have candid conversations. And I know that in the social circles that we run in, we're always running into somebody who knows something more than me. This is
Absolutely.
not the Bradley Knows Everything show. I love to be able to sit down and every single time. And so if you're watching, you're listening, and you either are an expert in one of these fields, whether it's anything from Facebook advertising all the way to risk assessment and business operations, I would love to have this kind of conversation, because I think all it does is enrich our community, and I'm here to help. So my Skype address is down below. If you have any questions, go ahead and Skype me there, and I'll see a whole bunch of you on the inside of Facebook in different groups, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks a lot, and take care.